the game that I'm now going to talk about is the Broncos breaking the 4-year streak that they have lost or been swept by us. And they finally came out with a victory, and they did it in convincing fashion. They absolutely beat up on the Raiders, and the Raiders did not have an answer for anything that the Broncos did. And we essentially, I hate to say it, but the Raiders gave up in this game, plain and simple. In the first quarter, I would say the first drive, obviously, it led to a touchdown by Brock Bowers. Gardner Minshew, the offense looked pretty good, really good first series play calling by Luke Getsy and also manned by Gardner Minshew. It looked really good. Brock Bowers, it looked like they were going to make him the focal point because, probably going to be now the new number one option with Devontae Adams not really being there anymore since he requested his trade. Team looked good. Again, opening drive touchdown. And then, our defense showed some grit, showed some toughness in the first defensive series that had to go up there. Bo Nix looked uncomfortable. The Broncos offense couldn't really get anything moving. We were able to get them on a 3-and-out to where they gave us back the ball. Again, second drive, came up with a field goal, looked really, really good. We were with the Broncos, we were trading, series. And in our third series, which really turned this whole thing around, we were driving into the red zone. We were, I think, on a goal line position, or at least inside the 5-yard line, I want to say. And Gardner Minshew, he rolls out of the pocket. He throws it, or he kind of underthrows it to Brock Bowers, or excuse me, not underthrows it. He overthrows Brock Bowers, and Patrick Surtain II picks it off, goes 100 yards for a pick six. And since that play, the Raiders could not turn it around. Absolutely not. They had no fight, no will to want to get past it. Was it a momentum swing? It sure was. Don't get me wrong, because in that first quarter, we looked really, really good. Gardner Minshew was rolling out of the pocket and using his legs to create opportunities, whether that was it would allow him to escape the pocket to allow the receivers to get open. Then he would find that man or find the receiver, or Gardner Minshew would then just, leave the pocket and he would just go for, a small gain and, it would help move the chains and keep the defense on the field and kind of get into a rhythm offensively. Cause, in the first couple of drives, our run game actually came to life. Our blocking looked pretty good. We thought maybe we would have a pretty good, we'd probably have a really good running attack. And then again, after that interception that Gardner Minshew threw, it was the first one of the day for him. That was the first one he did. And we just couldn't recover. That the first two possessions we scored, and we made it 10-0 pretty quickly within the game. Following that pick six, our next 7 possessions were either a punt or an interception. And it seemed like everyone on the Raiders was thrown off by the interception. For some reason, we could not shake it. It was something that we were holding on to. I know that Gardner Minshew, I can clearly tell that after he threw that pick, he was way more cautious with where he wanted to go with the ball. He was hesitating a lot more. Now, don't get me wrong, like throughout the game, even before the interception, the pocket was collapsing. He would evade the pressure and he would climb into the pocket. He'd move away from the pocket. And, that was when he would find someone open and he'd deliver the ball, and he delivered it with confidence. Once he threw that first interception, that return for a pick six, again, he, for some reason, didn't want to leave the pocket. It looked like Gardner Minshew wanted to stay where all the chaos was. He would try to step up to get past it, but then he would always find himself in the middle of it once again. And rather than rolling out and using his mobility, which I was hoping that he would do following the interception, it seemed like he wanted to stay inside the pocket. You can see he looked at a receiver, or saw a receiver that he wanted to throw the ball to, hesitated, and then when he finally let the ball out, it was too late, or he missed, or whatever the case may be. And that didn't happen until, again, after the interception. And I get it. When some quarterbacks make a turnover mistake, whether that's fumbling the ball, more or less when, an interception takes place, the quarterback is a lot more cautious now. They're not trying to give the ball away. They want to protect the ball, especially Gardner Minshew. I'm pretty certain he's heard a lot of Raider Nation complain about, how he turns the ball over. And so I can imagine Gardner Minshew is doing everything he can to make sure that he does not turn the ball over again, which means he's second guessing himself now. Now that defense is getting home because he's holding on to the ball too long, and the receivers just really aren't getting open as they were anymore because now the timing's all off. And it's unfortunate because I thought the Raiders had more fight in this. Even our defense, it seemed to suck the wind right out of their sails. They could not. I mean, in terms of pressure, the Raiders have the Raiders had three sacks. Max Crosby had 2. Christian Wilkins had 1. Wilkins, though, following after his 1 sack, did leave with a foot injury, and he was out for the rest of the game. So hopefully he can return for next week. We'll see. I'm not sure if there's any update to that foot injury, but we'll see what's going on with that later. But regardless, though, even the defense looked like that the tenaciousness was gone. It looked like the fight in it was gone. So it wasn't just Gardner Minshew's fault per se for the entire team's effort. Did he throw a bad pass that got picked off and taken for a pick 6? Yeah, he did. No doubt. However, that did not lose us the game. That only got the Broncos on the scoreboard. And then ever since then, they couldn't stop scoring. Our defense didn't fight back really. Our offense couldn't create any sort of momentum. And our play calling following that from Luke Getsy was terrible. I don't know what happened. The first 2 series was really good play calling. It was a good mix, a little bit of run here, some screen action. Then we're throwing it down the middle. Brock Bowers gets involved. I know that we got Trey Tucker involved a little bit more. And I think what was frustrating is following that interception, the play calling, at least the good quality play calling, went out the window. The stuff that we've been frustrated with Luke Getsy calling delayed run handoffs when we're like third and forever, as if that's going to make up a lot of ground. It just looked like following that, the team just really waved the right flag. And I can imagine, and it did sound like Max Crosby was very frustrated just because, look, we were good enough to come out of it with a win. We could have fought back. There's no reason why we should have rolled over like that. That was very, very hard to watch and very frustrating as not only a Raiders fan, but I'm sure as a team in general, just because they're better than that. And I think they believe that. And I think that's what's frustrating. The Broncos deserve the win. I'll say that. They played better in the special teams, on the special teams side. On the defensive side, they have a very good defense. We were their 3rd team that they've beaten in a row. They beat the New York Jets the week prior, and I believe the week prior to that, they beat the Seattle Seahawks. 2 really good teams. Granted, the Jets' win-loss record doesn't say much, but they played a very good defense. A rainy game, they came out and won the game. Winning in the NFL is hard, as everyone knows. Seattle Seahawks, which have been good up into the point where they played the Broncos. The Broncos, I don't want to say beat up on them, but their defense really caused issues. Same thing with us. And I said this last week too, that as long as Gardner Minshew can protect the ball, and if we play clean football, we have a chance. What was the thing that happened? We turned the ball over. And it was Gardner Minshew threw more than just that 1 pick 6. He also threw another interception, which basically got him out of the game for the rest of the afternoon. AP then made a quarterback change with Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell's first full series throws an interception. So the Broncos defense is legit, in my opinion. I think they're the real deal. They came out ferocious in the interior. Linebackers were actually pretty good. They were able to keep up for the most part with the running backs, I would say. And then that secondary, man, Patrick Surtain is not the only ball hack that they have there. They have a collection of defensive backs that when they work in tandem, it's really hard to get any completions anywhere in that secondary. They are very, very good. And so what did the Raiders do that really turned this upside down, which is turning the ball over? They committed 3 turnovers. Penalties. They had 11 penalties in the game. AP, since he's taken over, the team has only averaged, I believe the number is somewhere between 3 and 6 penalties for the entire game. They've been the least penalized team in the league. And I mentioned this the last few weeks because the last few weeks, our penalties have gotten out of control again, which is crazy because prior to that, we've been the least penalized team, and we're now back to committing foolish penalties. Drew Code Sports Talk is supported by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your go-to app for tickets, making it super easy to find the best deals. They even rate each ticket deal on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting your money's worth. And as a special thank you to our listeners, we've got a promo code just for you. Use Drew Code at checkout to get $20 off your first order. That's $20 off your first purchase, whether it's for the game that you've been dying to see or that concert that everybody is talking about. Head over to SeatGeek now, find your perfect seat, and use Drew Code for $20 off your first order. SeatGeek. Get your tickets to the action today. That's costing us games. That's costing us field position. We committed 2 defensive 12 men on the field penalties. I almost want to say they were in back-to-back defensive series. I know that there was 2 that happened in the third quarter, which is completely odd because from what I know, when an offensive substitution happens, the defense has an opportunity to also do a substitute. So in order for you to have 12 men on the field, it usually happens if the offense doesn't substitute. But from my understanding, the Broncos did substitute the 2 times that the Raiders committed the 12 men on the field and just got flagged for it. That's bonehead penalties that's going to kill you. It's exactly what happened. We committed 11 penalties, turned the ball over 3 times up until the fourth quarter. And I would say our final drive where we got the touchdown, we were losing in time of possession. We, again, in the 7 possessions following the pick 6, it was either a punt or it was a turnover in the sense of an interception. And those are drive killers. That's what puts your defense back on the field. That's what doesn't give them an opportunity to stand firm, because when they get back on that field after only being off it for a minute and 20 seconds, let's say, that's not enough time for your defense to recover, to be able to put up a stand. And then also, too, we can't get in rhythm like that. Goes into play calling, goes into a bevy of things. Point being is Broncos absolutely stomped us pitifully. I mean, it does say 34-18. Again, the last 8 points was our final drive where we scored on. After that, the Broncos had their way with us in convincing fashion. All the trash talking that Raider Nation has been talking about the Broncos losing to us 4 consecutive years, they hadn't had a win in over 1,700 days. That was all true. However, with how bad we lost and how much of a bullies, how much they bullied us, what win streak now? That's all broken. And I said this last week that if the Raiders didn't take this seriously, if they didn't cut off the penalties, if they didn't, protect the ball, this Broncos team was going to make them pay. Bo Nix, for a majority of this game, I would say was okay. He wasn't great. What the Raiders would give him would be a lot of checkdowns, a lot of receiver screens, which they dumped off. Some of them were taken for long runs after the catch. Some of them were not. Run game came to life around the second quarter, third quarter, when our defense was on the field for too long. Then their run game started developing, and then we couldn't stop anything. Bo Nix then started letting it loose once our defense was gassed, and then he was making throws down the field, but for the most part, it could have been a lot worse. I think he only threw for like 200 plus passing yards. So again, it could have been a lot worse, and it was pretty mild for the most part. I was afraid he was going to do like 250 on us and a couple of touchdowns. Wasn't that, but it still didn't look great, where Bo Nix, yes, was sacked 3 times, but he looked pretty comfortable in the third and the fourth quarter. Our defense, again, didn't really put up any pressure, and the Broncos just, again, had their way with us. They bullied us. And I don't think that it was Bo Nix that beat us, but it was definitely that Broncos defense that just shut us down, and we also took ourselves out of the game, plain and simple. And it's super, super unfortunate. We're now looking ahead to week 6, where we'll be going up against Pittsburgh. I believe we are playing in Las Vegas. So Pittsburgh is coming to Las Vegas. They're coming off of a loss as well to Dallas. I got to be honest, I'm a little nervous about it. They have a really good defense. Secondary is pretty good. Their pass rush is insane with Hayward and then also TJ Watt. So that makes me nervous because our offensive line is trash, in my opinion. I know that we have Jackson Powers Johnson, he's a pretty good young player. I think he'll do really great as his career goes on. Colton Miller, I'm really concerned with. Some part of me thinks that the best that we've had from Colton Miller is probably behind us now. Again, going through injuries, we drafted him. I think it was back in 2018, I think. So he's been on the team for a while, but with injuries, not being able to stay on the field, I don't know. I know that he's one of our better tackles, but he is looking like a liability a little bit because he's getting beat a lot more often. And I just don't trust our offensive line. So we'll look ahead to week 6 when we're going against Steelers a little bit later in the show. But we have a lot to think about. We have a lot to work on. And, I would say that I'm nervous that we're turning our season, which I was optimistic about, of being like maybe an 8-win team, maybe a 9-win team on the higher side, is going to be looking more like we'll be lucky to pull off 5 or 6 wins. So, and this is why I talked about Drew and I's expectations for the Raiders to lead off this topic. Is a couple of weeks ago, and I wouldn't even say a month ago, before the season even started, we had asked, what is the expectations for the Raiders heading into the season? And I had said that I believe that the Raiders' expectations should be between 8 wins, 9 wins on the high side. I would even say we're maybe on the low end, 7-10 team. I think we're good enough to where we'll be right about 500. And I think the line to open the season for the Raiders win-loss total was 6.5 wins. And Drew was saying should probably take the under on that. And he gave his purposes and his reasons behind that. And I hate to say it, but it's kind of unfolding in front of us. Davante Adams has requested a trade. I talked about it last week. I don't like it, first off. I don't like that we're losing our best player. We could really use an offensive player like that right now. Granted, we're not going really anywhere. I don't see us being in the playoffs or anything like that. But, I get it. Like, he's also gone through a lot of different coaches. A lot of different things are happening. It also does feel like a stab in the back, though, because a little bit more information is coming out where he asked this also last year, but didn't really ask it last year. Now, all of a sudden, he's asking for it now. And again, the 2 teams that he's asking for is 2 former quarterbacks. And what I also know, too, is it's rubbing some of the other Raiders the wrong way. And they're all being really professional about it, where they're not really addressing it. And, hey, we wish Davante the best. And that's that. I don't like it just because, again, we could really use a player like that, and we're not going to have Davante, and we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do for the future. But again, from what Drew was saying, is that he anticipates that he would take the under on the wins because of not only that, how's our defense going to be? How's AP going to be in his first full season? It's one thing to have, a third of the season or 9 games to work with. It's another thing to have the full season, and not only the full season, but the off season to prep for, getting in your own guys, getting in your own system. How's that all working out? And so, Drew's looking like a prophet right about now, because as we sit 2-3, I know that it looks like it's doom and gloom because of how poorly we lost to the Broncos, but it's a legit question. It's like, we have some tough teams that are coming up, and can we pull it together to where we can continue to play hard and respectful? Because I don't want to keep seeing games where we're not playing hard. I think I can get behind, like, we just don't have enough talent to win games, but can never doubt our effort, can never doubt the heart of the team. And yesterday I questioned now the heart of the team just because of how poorly they showed up against Denver. A divisional opponent, like, came out aggressive until we got punched in the mouth, and then we just didn't want to fight anymore. We should have just thrown in the towel, and metaphorically speaking, we did. So that's what I'll say about that. We'll talk about the rest of the NFL season as we go through the show.